This video update brought to you by RaceDayScore.com. Daily Fantasy NHRA Drag Racing.
We're joined in the media center by #1 qualifier in Funny Car, Jack Beckman, current #1 qualifier in Funny Car, 3.913 seconds at 323.74 miles an hour. He was #1 qualifier in Pomona, and he does have 16 #1 qualifying position in his career. Jack, talk about a little bit of a long day today, but talk about, especially that second run, getting to that #1.
It's always tough when you show up to a race and the forecast is rain, rain, rain. And it rained yesterday, and the forecast didn't look good for today, and all the fans are coming by, and they just want to see you run. And here, when we come to Gainesville, this is their version of the East Coast Winternationals. So these people have waited all winter long to come see us, and there's a very real chance we weren't going to get a single run in today. And then we got one run in today. And I thought for sure that was going to be it. And we smoked the tires on the first run, so I was a little bit frustrated. And let me back up a little bit. We went back to last year's car. We front-halved it. We debuted the new car after we bent last year's car in preseason testing at Phoenix, January of this year. Problem is we didn't have any runs to go off. The DSR cars are all great, but we've done some changes to them, and eventually it might be a better program for us. We didn't have enough runs to know. The tuning window's a little bit different. So we went back, front half the car we bent, which is the one that worked so well last year, brought it out here, and you see the second run on the thing, 391 with the 3, and that's the same chassis that went 390 here testing in December. So to be able to get the full session in for the Florida fans and to be able to run that good for the Infinite Hero team, that's a perfect day for me.
Jack, how frustrating is it for teams when you have one car that works so good, so well, and you know you need to switch over to a new car and it doesn't work as well as the other one? Case in point, like Matt Hagan.
Yeah, and we usually haven't had that sort of issue with the transition. This year was a little bit odd, and it's because we had made some alterations to our cars. And it is possible that in the long run, it will make a faster race car. The problem is you got to flog these things. You got to get 20 runs to the finish line to figure out, let's say your old chassis, if you added 3 grams of primary weight, it would equal 40 more RPM of rear wheel speed at 1 second. The new car might be 50 RPM or 30 RPM, but if it's different, it changes everything after that. We just didn't want to throw away everything that we'd done last year. It actually made more sense to front half last year's car, run that combo, and then we can test the new chassis on Mondays after the national events.
Have you ever had a car where you went through a change like that that has just defied every bit of logic you guys have thrown at it?
I have not since I've been at DSR, because we've done a lot of things to ensure that we get a consistent product off the jig, and in fact, we're almost done with the brand new Funny Car jig. The dragster jig was the newer style one, was completed several years ago, and it's just a more exact piece. A picture, instead of measuring with a tape measure, you've got holes that are indexed in 1/4-inch increments for 30 feet there. It's a no-brainer. It's like Battleship. A 232, put this tab, it locks that brace into place, and then you weld on the thing. So we're implementing all that with the Funny Cars, so we will eventually have an even more consistent piece. But I've never experienced an issue at DSR where we debuted a new car and we're completely lost. Sometimes it took us 15 runs to dial it in.
Does it make you scratch your head when you have the same exact parts, they're built the same exact way, and then they have their own mind?
Yeah, well, listen, with 4 Funny Cars, there's a lot of times, I mean, things change as you go deeper into the season, where Don says, that's it. Everybody on my Funny Car squad put this tune-up in your car because it's demonstrated it works the best. And they don't work the same. Is it driver weight, driver placement, the way we do our burnouts? Because even with identical parts and pieces, they don't accelerate the same. So at the end of the day, the crew chief has to listen to what that car on that track, on that day, in that lane is trying to tell him.
Was there any kind of planning today that, well, bad weather could be coming, especially even looks worse. We've got to get something. I mean, we've got to make something, try to make something.
Well, yes and no. There's only 16 cars here. So all we needed to do was stage to be officially qualified for the show. But I asked Jimmy on run 1, if it goes out there and shakes or smokes, do you want me to get it to the finish line? Because a lot of times it'll let you run later on in the day under theoretically better conditions. Or if that locked qualifying, it would give you a better position on the ladder. And we elected, because this is a brand new car. Let's not take the risk. If something happens, just click it off. And same thing on the second run. I said, you want me to get to the finish line? He said, we're okay. We're already in the show. But let me tell you, when you've got a threat of rain and there's 18 cars there and you're not one of the top 16, it's nail-biting time because you don't know if you'll get the opportunity on Saturday to run. You better take advantage of it on Friday, and it's a risk. These cars are not happy when you pedal them or yank on the brake in the middle of the track.
Well, now, up until today, there had never been a 3-second run in funny cars. You ended up with 8.
Well, and the interesting thing is headers. We had not run here. Remember, Sonoma is what started the cycle of the laid-back headers. So until we get around to Sonoma next year, now keep in mind that we run double races at Pomona, at Vegas, at Charlotte. So Vegas and Charlotte have already seen the laid-back headers. But all the other races, I would expect if conditions are similar to what they were last year, we should be about 400 or 500 quicker. So Denver ought to be exciting. Denver should see its first 3-second run here. So we're resetting all that, but it's a byproduct. The cars are a half a tenth to 800ths better than they were at this point last year.
Talk about your confidence level going into the first run, considering everything that's occurred this year, and then talk about your confidence level going into the second run. Did you see the pole coming?
No, because the cars that ran quick on the first run had two advantages. They had data to tune off of, and they got to run later so they could sit back and watch what everybody else ran. So when we go out there and run a 391, we clearly just showed everybody what the lane was capable of. So I didn't think that that run was going to hold. And here's the other thing. That wasn't all our car had in it. We weren't swinging for the fences. Lord help us, if Jimmy, John, and Chris lean on this thing tomorrow, it could be awfully impressive. But I'm going to tell you, you don't get something for nothing. When they're accelerating that fast, the front end's light, and these things are hunting. Ours pulled the front end over at the bump at 400 feet, and I had my hands full for a couple seconds down there. I'm just glad that it stayed stuck to the track.
So are you saying a 3.8 might be possible?
Well, listen, if we could redo that run and gave it the tune-up that we normally would feel confident to do because we were comfortably in the show, yes, we would have been 200s quicker. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. Doesn't matter till the ET slip reads it. But I'm saying, yes, our car is completely capable of doing that.
And talk a little bit, if you will, about clearing your mind to be ready for that run. I came out there twice to look at you today, and you were overwhelmed almost by the huge number of people just wanting your autograph. What did you do to just make sure your mind...
I paid them all $1 to stay in the line. Actually, that's kind of one of the things that keeps, sometimes to get the right mindset, you clear your mind. Sometimes you occupy your mind. And that's what I love about my job, because I do like interacting with the fans. I'll tell you, the drivers that don't enjoy that fan interaction, this is a tough sport for you, because you need to do that, and you owe it to the fans. They paid money to be able to come interact with you. So to me, that occupation of my mind, that ability to interact and not have to dwell on anything like the weather, that our car shook the tires, is it going to be okay next run? It's a good time for me. And then I've got 10 minutes. When I walk up to the lanes, I've suited up. I'll go up there, I'll watch a couple pairs of the class in front of me. That's when I can start clearing my mind and wrapping my head around what we need to accomplish at that point.
And do you pray for rain when you go to bed at night?
Yeah, no. You know what? Listen, there's cars that can outrun us tomorrow. We actually felt like Robert Hite was going to run better on that last session, and it looked like they pushed. And that's the luxury you have when you run quick early. You've got the luxury of swinging harder at the thing. No, because actually I think we're going to be better in the long run with more runs on this tune-up to go into race day. So, que sera, sera, right? What will be, will be. It's, you know what, if it rains for us, it rains for the other cars. And I learned a long time ago, man, there's a lot of things I just can't control. The weather's probably right up at the top of my list, so we'll roll with the punches.
Now you're 3 races into the season. Spoke with Ron Casso at the teleconference last Wednesday. Talked about small points. I know you guys discussed about possibly shedding off, being that you pretty much understand you're going to be in the show regardless. But how important is that for you guys to go out? You get the top qualifying spot, those small points. I know they reset the countdown, but putting yourself in position right before the countdown, these small points go a long way. Can you tell us how important that is?
I'm not being sarcastic, and you'll understand what I'm saying. The answer to your question is I have no idea. because we won't know till we get to the last round at Indy and then go, oh, darn, if we just had 3 more points. So the fact that you don't know means you probably ought to do everything you can to gobble up as many of them as you can. But they're way more important than the last 6 races, because for the first 18 races, assuming you're going to be a top 10 car, okay, if somebody said, we're safely in the countdown, you're really only racing for 10-point increments at that point in time. But once you get into the countdown, now you're racing for finish positions for the year-end championship. So maybe at this point in the season, they're more important for confidence for the crew guys, because they work just as hard for us to go out there and run a 580 as they did for us to go out there and run a 391 with a 3. They get paid exactly the same, whether we run 580 or 391. But I guarantee you, they feel a hell of a lot better about that 391, because they know their effort, their work, everything culminated with their car being the best that day. And I think it's a little spring in your step. I'm not saying it makes them better with a torque wrench or a screwdriver, but it makes the day go by better.